Welcome to Trudge the Road. It's sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron, a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment with treatment facilities in Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, offices in Bermuda, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. They can be reached by calling 1-800-854-6023, or you can go to their website, caron.org. That's caron.org. We're your host. I'm Rich, a recovered drug addict.
My name is Jerry. I'm a sober alcoholic.
And Jerry, tell everyone, before we get started, why we do the show.
Trudge the Road is a radio program dedicated to folks who suffer from the disease of addiction to alcohol and drugs, and as well as, and every bit as important, family members and friends who suffer tremendously. And we know you got a lot of questions. Our goal here is to answer as many of those questions as we possibly can, and with the grace of the good Lord above, provide a solution to this incredible dilemma, the disease of addiction.
All right, if you would please go ahead and cue up Matt's music.
Yeah, where's my theme song?
Yeah. Oh, da, 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 da. I got to work on that.
That's
a little
not
bit.
it, but I think it was more. No, wasn't that? I don't recall, but Matt, the producer, is here.
Greatest
Give us the
guy in the
rundown.
world.
Very simple, ladies and gentlemen. Go to our website, trudgetheroadradio.com. There you can link to our Facebook page, where we would love for you to like us. You could also follow us at Twitter at TTR Show. You can also catch prior episodes, link to our YouTube page, and also you can link to Jerry and the 12 Steps, our lovely recovery tool that we have available for purchase there and at Amazon.com, I might add. And also, if you're someone who needs help, we have a nice little tab up there. It says, I need help. You click on that, takes you to our recovery locator, where you can link to an AA meeting, an NA meeting, or an Al-Anon meeting.
Yeah,
Terrific.
we were just off the air talking about Matt and how he sort of represents the thread of culture in Pennsylvania. You know, in our trip to
You mean being a
California.
I'm a
guy?
trend center.
You are. You're just, you're a little piece of Pennsylvania. You're a little piece of Philly that we took to California.
May I explain?
for
What
it,
a Philly
sure.
guy is? This is what. Now, you folks out there, I think I can make this happen for you. You're at the grocery store, and you're in the 10 items or less line, and the person in front of you has 11 items. Well, maybe you roll your eyes a little bit. Not a Philly guy. They're going to say something. They're going to say something. Matt will say something like,
Yo,
hey,
bro.
what's 10 plus 1? How high can you count?
Now, it's funny because, actually his
I'm not
Phillyism.
exaggerating.
No, you're not. And it came into play right when we went to Benihana's that very first night we were there. That kid was so fascinated. There was a kid at the table. We got the hibachi
Benihana,
thing.
yeah.
And he was so fascinated that you were from Philadelphia. He's an Eagles fan. Really, you're from Philly. It's like he couldn't stop looking at you like the Hope Diamond or something. He just
Well,
was
if you ever
staring
want to
at
meet
you.
a real Philly guy, Matt's your dude.
What
There's
can
no
I
question.
say? Freedom of speech was the first thing they told me I could do, so I abused that privilege.
And of course, there was the 2 physical fights that we almost got into too.
Well,
But
that's a whole other story.
I'll kind of leave those out.
Please do.
Both of those guys were well deserving of a you-know-what kicking, so that's all I'm going to say.
And he lives in the heart of Amish country.
Yes, it's great.
I
Oh,
mean,
gosh.
so he's got that connection
Talk
as
about
well.
cultural chaos.
Yeah, well, speaking of, the counties in Pennsylvania and the people of Pennsylvania, our guest that's coming up is Jen N. And Jen lives in Pennsylvania as well, Schuylkill County.
Came from Schuylkill County.
Is it Schuylkill or is it Schuylkill?
It's Schuylkill.
All right.
Sure kill.
Yeah, sure kill. Yeah.
And she is going to be joining us, and we're very excited about that. And we'll talk about this as we come up. But
She's
Jen,
a Philly girl now. She doesn't live in Schuylkill County anymore.
well, she is a representative of Al-Anon, which is a topic that we like to cover here and get a different perspective when it comes to recovery.
We met her. We talked about her last week. We met down at the Maryland State Convention of Young People and Alcoholics Anonymous at St. Michael's Island. She was the Al-Anon speaker. I was one of the AA speakers. Incredible. Absolutely amazing. We bonded immediately, invited her. And if you are an individual out there who has somebody you love who is suffering from this disease, or maybe you don't define it as suffering from this disease, you got somebody out there who's making you crazy because they're using drugs and alcohol, this lady might be able to help you a lot. We may not be able to solve the issue with the person you love and their drug and alcohol abuse at this moment, but we certainly can help you. And she's the one who has that information. So it's ever so important, because I think that you'll be able to not just identify with what Jen has to say, but you'll be able to connect with her. And that's the one thing that we recognized almost immediately when we heard her speak, without even knowing her, that instant connectedness. It's a spiritual thing, we believe, and she has it, and you're going to be able to not just hear it, but feel it as she comes up and chats with us here in just a little while.
All right, that's Jen N., and she is coming up next right here on the Trudge the Road Radio Network.
You're listening to Trudge the Road. Coming up, Rich and Jerry talk to Jen, an Al-Anon member whom they met at a conference in Maryland a few weeks back. That's next on the Trudge the Road Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rich, your co-host for the Trudge the Road radio program, and there's a question I get all the time, and that is, how do we catch prior episodes of Trudge the Road if we miss the radio show? And it's very simple. You just go to youtube.com and in the search engine, type in, without any spaces, Trudge the Road Radio, and all our shows will come up. We also invite you to like our Facebook page, which can be found by typing Trudge the Road Radio with spaces into the search engine. And thank you from Jerry and myself for listening to Trudge the Road.
There is a new phase of recovery, and you see it in the pages of Renew Magazine and at RenewEveryday.com. Renew and RenewEveryday.com are changing the face of recovery for good. Each issue is filled with positive role models, life-affirming stories, encouragement, and ideas to help any life in recovery. Whether you're already enjoying an addiction-free life, have a loved one facing his challenges, or are considering recovery, Renew and RenewEveryday.com can support and inspire you. Join us. Check out RenewEveryday.com to learn more. At Northbound Treatment Services in Newport Beach, California, we believe that treatment is the beginning of a new way of life. Our brand signifies our own commitment to help our clients find new direction and strength on their road to recovery. Our mission is simple: to assist our clients in successfully celebrating 1 year of continuous sobriety. This mission is achieved through unique treatment models, individualized treatment plans, graduated phase systems, and exceptional staff, 12-step philosophies, and a strong alumni program. The Northbound Experience focuses on effectively delivering innovative treatment. We are located in the beautiful and vibrant recovering community of Orange County, California. The Northbound Experience takes our clients beyond treatment. We are Northbound.
Welcome back to Trudge the Road. It's sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron is a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment with treatment facilities in Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, offices in Bermuda, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and the nation's capital. They can be reached by calling 1-800-854-6023, or you can go to their website, caron.org. That's caron.org. We're your hosts. I'm Rich, a recovered drug addict.
My name is Jerry, and I'm a sober alcoholic.
All right, before we get into the segment here with Jen N., who is joining us, I would like to have you tell everyone why we do this show.
Trudge the Road Radio is a radio program dedicated to folks like you and me who suffer from the disease of addiction to drugs and alcohol. And every bit as important, family members and friends, you suffer tremendously. And we know you have a lot of questions. Our goal here is to answer as many of those questions as we can. And with the grace of the good Lord above, provide a solution to this incredible dilemma, the disease of addiction. And we've got a bit of an audience in here. We've got Joe's here, Ashley's here. Of course, our dear friend Slappy Boom Boom back there taking care of everything.
Otherwise known as Matt, the producer. Matt, if you would run down the programming notes for us, please.
Thank you, Rich. Very simple, ladies and gentlemen. Go to our website, trudgetheroadradio.com. There you will find a link to our Facebook page where we would love for you to like us. You could also link to our Twitter page and follow us at TTR Show. You can link to our YouTube channel to catch prior episodes, which I must admit I've been slacking.
Yeah, we weren't going to say anything. Glad you
the
did.
Past couple of weeks on that. But anyway, and if you're someone who needs some help, very simply on our homepage, there's a little tab at the top that says I need help, and that will link you to our recovery locator, where you can find a AA meeting, an NA meeting, or an Al-Anon meeting.
All right. Thank you, Matt. And, we've been talking about Jen in our last episode, and she's here.
She's incredible.
Here, right here next to us. And I got to say, we met Jen in Maryland. And
at St. Michael's.
Yeah, and there was a sequence of events that actually led up to us meeting Jen. And I believe that it's meant to be that you're sitting here.
Bro. It's all spiritual.
I really do. And I'll tell you why. Because, first of all, we went down to Maryland, and Jen was one of the speakers, and she was the very first speaker. No, actually, she was the first speaker on Saturday.
The Al-Anon speaker.
Right, and then you spoke later that night.
Right.
But when we got down to Maryland, the first thing we did that Saturday was to go try to find a place to eat for lunch. And we drove down a road, just randomly looking to get near the water. And
it's so beautiful there at St. Michael's Island. Oh, mercy.
Well, it's very beautiful, and there's a lot of yachts and things of that nature. And that's what I wanted, because the last time I was there, I came in via boat and had parked there right by that restaurant. And I said, this is where we need to go. We need to go down here and go in there because they got really good food. So we go in there, and there's really not many people in there at all. And they sat us right next to a table with people. And one of the people that was sitting at the table was Jen, who was there with some friends of hers. And who was all there with you, Jen?
My friend Lucille and my friend Kathy from the Anon program and my boyfriend Harry from the AA program.
And we sat right next to them. It was like, hi, how are you? Because, we had seen each other and stuff. So we end up eating lunch and we go about our merry ways. Well, later on, we end up sitting next to each other at Jerry Speaking. You sat right next to me. I was in the second row. I wanted to get close, but not too close because those really loud people were in the front row. So I kind of wanted to be in the second row.
They were the enthusiastic young people. Let me just go back for a minute, too. We got to tell you, when Jen was speaking, I know we mentioned this last week, but I don't know, you'd been talking about 3 minutes, and I turned to Rich, and we looked at each other, and at the exact same moment said, oh, we got to have her on Trudge the Road.
We did.
If nothing else, I'm not going to tell your story by any stretch of imagination. I'll let you continue. But, you had me from the second you started when I found out where you are from. And again, I'll let you that. But that, the statistics of addiction embedded in the community that you grew up in are second to none anywhere in the United States. It's one of the most addictive, second, really, in the country. It goes back years and years and years, embedded into the old coal days. But I'll let you tell you about that. It's a difficult life. And when I heard that, if you can make it out of that environment just anyway, but if you make it out sober and in Al-Anon, you are somebody special. And she most certainly is.
Absolutely. And we sat next to each other. We started talking to each other. And I mentioned that we co-hosted a radio show. And she knew Trudge the Road. And it was amazing because that doesn't really, it rarely happens to me. But we got talking, and you and your boyfriend, and I asked you guys where was a good place to go later on that night. Now, we know from our last episode that Midnight Madness is where we went. We just didn't go to the exact restaurant you told us to. We ended up going out and getting sushi. Well, the next morning, I get up, I go have breakfast, and who's right there
Jen.
When I get breakfast? Jen and her boyfriend. Right there. So I thought, you know what? This is meant to be. This really is. So we got a chance to talk to Jen, and she's here right now, sitting right here at the end of the table.
Came all the way down from Philadelphia here to Wernersville, Pennsylvania. We are at the Caron treatment facility today, and we all had the opportunity to go to chapel with Father Bill and Reverend Jack, Ashley and Joe. Yeah, Matt didn't make it. He had some stuff to do, but what a great way to start out the day, wouldn't you say?
Oh, it was great. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so grateful to share my experience, strength, and hope. And I was primed for this today at chapel.
I'd try to explain chapel here to you, but I just don't. I can't. I don't have the vocabulary.
It should also be mentioned that Jen is an alumni of Caron. She's an alumni of the Breakthrough program before Ann Smith took it over.
Exactly.
What was it called back then?
It was the Center for Self-Development. It was just called the Codependency Program.
Which didn't have a lot of, that doesn't have a lot of pizzazz.
Yeah. But did a lot of good. And of course, Breakthrough, we've had a number of people. Tara Connor, we had Tara on before she went in and after, and that was a different person who came out.
Absolutely.
And very cool. But do, if you will, tell us just a little bit about your story, what brought you here, a little of your background, a little bit of your sociology, and then, we'll continue to talk, take a little break, and we'll come back and find out the solution that you've offered so many people within our recovering community.
I shared in Maryland that I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania in the coal region of Schuylkill County. And what I tell people about that town is that there's a bar and a church on every corner. And it was settled by a lot of immigrants. And I actually grew up with a bar in my family. My aunt and uncle owned the bar, one of the most popular bar in town.
Of course.
So, yes, it's where my parents met. So I grew up with thinking that was normal. And I used to brag to people that I grew up in a bar until I found recovery. Because I didn't understand that was not healthy and normal. Because that's all I saw. And they also had catering business in the back, so all of our family gatherings were there. So there was always alcohol involved in every family event. I didn't understand that that's not how everybody lives. And as I grew up, it wasn't just my family, it was all the families around that I went to school with. By the time I got to high school, the joke every weekend when we come back from school is who wrecked their car drinking and driving underage. And it was like a badge of honor. Bush parties every weekend with kegs. Underage drinking was just the norm. In fact, some parents would even do those parties where you would go to their house, hand in your keys, and then stay overnight. Right. So it was a very permissive culture. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't wait to get to be 21 to go hang out with the adults in my cousin's bar, because that's where all the action was. It was so cool. Like, everybody was having so much fun. Like, that was the goal. Mm-hmm. That was everyone's goal.
You developed this when you were a child, realized that in that environment.
Yes, because even when I was 5, 6, 7, and 8, the bar would be closed, say, on Thanksgiving, but my uncle would open it up. And we'd have free reign of the pool table and the pinball machine, and we'd get to sit on the bar stools, and we'd get sodas.
Wow, yeah.
But it was like we got to play grown-ups. Mm-hmm. So we were definitely brought right into that culture from a young age.
I can't, in a similar manner, I don't want to take up your time, but as a youngster, I had a cousin who owned a bar. And I'm dating myself here. Shoeshine boy. Shoeshines were... kind of a popular job to have as a youngster. And I would go into...
That is a long time ago.
Into this bar. The Florsham Wingtip was the popular shoe of the businessmen of the day, if you will. And I would shine shoes in the bar until it got a little bit too busy. And then I was simply in the way, and he'd want me, shoo me off to go. And I never wanted to leave. I didn't want to shine anybody's shoes. And I was too young to understand about drinking, but I just wanted to be there. It was, I could feel it. It was that energy. It was that all of my senses were heightened by being in that environment. Is that similar to kind of the way that you felt when you were going through this?
Yeah, I didn't have to shine any shoes, but I learned to be a barmaid pretty young.
There you go.
Genesee beer was very popular back then, and my family loved to say, "Jenny, get me a Jenny." And I was always so proud to be the one to bring you your beer. I mean, I understand. It was a privilege, and that's
how important the alcohol is within in your culture.
Yes.
Well, we actually did a show called Honor and Drinking. We did a segment on that a few months ago on how there is that honor in drinking and how you grow up and you think that that's cool. And I was brought up in the same atmosphere as well. But you also had something that you said at the Maryland convention about your county was the county that sobriety forgot.
That was me. No.
Was that you?
Schuylkill County. That's just a joke. The little county that sobriety forgot.
Yeah, I thought I heard that somewhere.
But I had statistics about the blood alcohol content, the average blood alcohol content of DUI offenders in the county, which is the highest in the state and ranks up there in the country. So I had always heard as a young person that we had one of the highest alcoholism rates in the world. But I just thought, as I got older, that people were exaggerating. But I actually found this statistics about 5 years ago for the state of Pennsylvania that proved that alcoholism is truly a problem, and that the average blood alcohol rate is higher than normal. And also, they often see levels at the point where you shouldn't even be able to walk, yet people can drive a car. So binge drinking is, I could go to my cousin's bar next weekend and see the same people doing the same thing. It's just part of, when I heard that binge drinking is 4 or more drinks in a sitting, I was like, but that's like a regular night.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that really shocked me. I think people don't really understand what they're doing to themselves.
Exactly. Binge is a bad word. It just really does not define. I think, obviously binge means a whole lot more than that. And those of us who did it on a regular basis, on a daily basis, the insanity, of course, that prevailed. Now, you're in this environment. Could we ask, and I don't want to be too personal, as to how it affected those closest to you, the disease?
Well, my father was a daily drinker. He did not drink in the house. He always went out to a bar to drink. So I didn't actually really witness his drinking until I was old enough to serve him in the bar.
Get me a Jenny. Make it 2.
And my mother, she had double whammy. I would say she had a problem with drinking, and she was also mentally ill. She had bipolar with psychosis. So their Saturday night date would be going out drinking together, and she wouldn't take her medicine at night so that she could go drink with my dad.
Right.
And that continued all the way through when I was in high school. So needless to say, our house was very chaotic. My mother was hospitalized several times while I was a child, and my father was not very supportive of her illness. So oftentimes my brother and I were left with her in that condition, and it was very, very difficult. I didn't understand that was harmful to me. Because it was my mother and I loved her.
Absolutely. Why don't we explain just what a bipolar disorder is, and most of you out there would probably refer to it as manic depression. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the behavior mechanisms of people who suffer from this?
Well, this isn't the typical depression that you might say, somebody doesn't want to get out of bed or they feel very sad. There's the kind that's clinical depression where you stop eating and taking a shower. These are symptoms that she would display. And she would get to the point not of being catatonic, but the point where she wouldn't answer questions. She couldn't answer simple questions. Would you like something to eat? And then we would go over the edge. The psychosis would come in and she would hear things.
Right. The audio hallucinations.
And she would have a lot of paranoia that she thought that everybody was looking at her. She wouldn't leave the house. And she would continually ask questions of me or my brother. If one of us wasn't in the room, is your brother okay? Is he dead? I mean, it was very frightening.
I can only imagine.
So,
did she respond to lithium or anything of that nature?
Oh, yeah. She was on medication my entire life. But the problem is when you get into one of those episodes, you probably need to regulate your medicine.
Right.
You also forget to take it. And also, as I mentioned, she was drinking on her medication, which you pretty much don't bother taking it because the alcohol just cancels it out. So over time of drinking with that medicine and that condition, you just keep relapsing, and she would end up being hospitalized about every 2 years.
And this, obviously, you were the person that was taking care. And this is where caretaking started for you?
Caregiver.
Well, my grandmother, my mother's mother, lived several blocks away. So she was the one who managed her mental health care, like when it would get really bad. Because when I was 8 or 10, I really couldn't do anything. But as I was in high school, I was already the reporter. My grandmother would say, "How's your mom doing?" And when she would be not feeling well, I was giving reports, and I thought that's what a good daughter does because it's my mom and she's sick. So that probably started way before I'm even conscious of it. I mean, I just knew to always pay attention to her behavior and see, every day I would come home from school and I remember putting my hand on the doorknob and thinking, I don't know what's going to be in there when I get in there. So that is how alcoholism affected me. But the crazy part about it is if you would ask my classmates from high school, they had no idea this was going on. And I don't know how I'm shocked because I'm only finding that out, that they had no idea. How did I keep that together? It's amazing.
A little more, you were an achieving student at the time too, correct?
Yes, I was. I was very involved in school. I was in the National Honor Society, so I carried a very high GPA. I was a star in the basketball team. I mean, I was highly functioning. And so I guess it could look like nothing was wrong because my academic performance and my participation in school events
defined who you were.
Yes. Well, that was also a big part of, keeping the appearances. That's facade. A big part of the family disease. We don't talk about what's going on. And you especially do not talk about mental illness to anyone. So
this eventually led you through the doors of Al-Anon, and we're going to get to that here in the next part of your story, which is coming up in the next segment.
Just to tell you how smart Jen is, her GPA and your blood alcohol level the last time you were drunk are the same. 0.4 something.
Wow. Well, she is a smart cookie. Trust me on this one. We're talking to Jen, and we're going to talk a little more with her coming up in the next segment. This is Trudge the Road on the Trudge the Road Radio Network.
You're listening to Trudge the Road. Coming up, Rich and Jerry continue their discussion with Jen. That's next on the Trudge the Road Radio Network.
At Northbound Treatment Services in Newport Beach, California, we believe that treatment is the beginning of a new way of life. Our brand signifies our own commitment to help our clients find new direction and strength on their road to recovery. Our mission is simple: to assist our clients in successfully celebrating 1 year of continuous sobriety. This mission is achieved through unique treatment models, individualized treatment plans, graduated phase systems, and exceptional staff, 12-step philosophies, and a strong alumni program. The Northbound experience focuses on effectively delivering innovative treatment. We are located in the beautiful and vibrant recovering community of Orange County, California. The Northbound experience takes our clients beyond treatment. We are Northbound.
Hi, this is Rich, your co-host for the Trudge the Road radio program, and there's a question I get all the time, and that is, how do we catch prior episodes of Trudge the Road if we miss the radio show? And it's very simple. You just go to youtube.com and in the search engine, type in, without any spaces, Trudge the Road Radio, and all our shows will come up. We also invite you to like our Facebook page, which can be found by typing Trudge the Road Radio with spaces into the search engine. And thank you from Jerry and myself for listening to Trudge the Road. Welcome back to Trudge the Road. It is sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron's a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment with treatment facilities in Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, offices in Bermuda, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. They can be reached by calling 1-800-854-6023. You can go to their website, caron.org. That's caron.org. We're your hosts. I'm Rich, a recovered drug addict.
My name is Jerry, and I'm a sober alcoholic.
And we have Jen N., who is here with us. And we met Jen in Maryland a few weeks ago.
The Young People's Convention.
Young at Heart.
Young at Heart, yes. And
People's
thank you.
Convention. You're very welcome. She was a featured speaker there.
Jen is young.
She is young.
We're not.
I'm an old man.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself, guys.
Yeah, not Matt. Matt's young.
Thank
Matt's
you.
very young.
It's funny that, I was talking to her earlier and I was making a reference to me being an old man. And then I realized that I'm only 24 years old. I just partied really hard.
Yeah, that's a face of meth right there.
It aged me. It's all that crystal meth that I was doing at one time. But Jen has a very compelling, fascinating story. And if you would just briefly recap where we were in the last segment.
Yeah, and just to kind of say, Jen's not an addicted person. Jen is an Al-Anon, but she certainly knows us and understands us. And you don't know how grateful we are that you do, because very few people do understand the disease that we have and the ramifications of it behaviorally, obviously.
Well, I will also say that during the break that Matt has made a decision that he will no longer drive in Schuylkill County on Sundays.
Avoid it like the plague, ladies and gentlemen, if you value your life at all.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, now that we're hearing all that. But go ahead. The stage is yours.
Yeah, just kind of recap a little bit. You grew up in the environment of a bar. And tell me if I'm wrong here in saying this, but I think it was similar in my own sociology that in the bar and the neighborhood, more took place there than just drinking. The politics of the neighborhood, things of that nature, were all kind of a centerpiece around the bar.
That was all social. That's where we socialized, had fun, watched games. You learned what everybody was up to. It was where you went. That's where the action was.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, what about you? And then now your drinking. I mean, we understand the sociology certainly of where you are from, and the ad practicum is to just graduate right into changing that cherry Coke into a rum and Coke.
Yeah, I definitely abused alcohol because that's what you go to the bar and you drink with everyone. I was blessed that I hate beer. I mean, and that kept me out of trouble a lot because beer is cheap and that's what people would get. So I didn't really drink until I went to college when I got introduced to hard liquor. So I definitely abused alcohol, but I think I know why I'm not an alcoholic. It's because I have a shutoff switch. I cannot drink another sip because I know I'm going to throw up, and I just stop. And I've never blacked out. I've never passed out. I've always been, quote unquote, in control of how much alcohol has been in my body and in control of getting into dangerous situations. So I think that's what makes me different. I don't know why. I just have a shut-off valve. So.
Well, you're definitely not. There's a number of professionals in the room who can tell you you're okay. Because my valve don't shut off. It doesn't. And so that's significant to know.
But it definitely interfered with my decision-making, relationships I got into, friendships I had, and how I spent my time. I mean, I didn't understand that people could have fun without alcohol. I couldn't imagine going to a party where there wasn't drinking. You need that social lubricant. At least that's what I learned. So I gravitated towards people who drank, who went to bars, and I did the whole social scene, but there tended to be people who drank a lot more than me, and I would date them.
Mm-hmm.
I started finding them at 14 or 15 in high school. The boys that went out every weekend and drank heavily, you know, the first boyfriend I ever had, that's what he wanted to do. And in college, I definitely found the heaviest drinkers at a frat party or at the shore when I was working. That was my first experience with a true alcoholic that I know was definitely had a problem. That was my first exposure to AA as well, because one of the women that I worked with in the restaurant, she was in AA and explained to me that he will get help when he's ready. There's nothing you can do. But that was my first experience with trying to fix an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
I went to his boss. I went to this lady at the restaurant. Can you please help me get him to stop drinking? I was counting his beers. I was lecturing on him. I was pleading with him. And I eventually broke up with him because after a year, I saw how bad it was, and I just couldn't watch it. And I didn't want to go down with the ship because of what I saw as a child growing up. It just was, I knew I would be in trouble if I stayed.
And that had to be heartbreaking.
It was, but I had some kind of strength, or I don't know how God took care of me then. I see that now.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I found another one a couple years later. He grew up in a family with alcoholism, severe alcoholism, and we dated for 2 years, and drinking was definitely involved in our relationship, but I wouldn't say he was my qualifier. And after 2 years of dating, things were not working out, and I left because he couldn't decide if he wanted to be with me. And I held on to him for 5 years, hoping things would work out. And he did come back into my life and asked me to marry him, which was like the best thing that ever happened. I mean, I was at the peak. It was everything I ever wanted in life. And it all came crashing down about 7 weeks before the wedding, where he called me up, the person that called me that day I didn't recognize, and told me that he didn't want to marry me. And I didn't get out of bed for 2 days. And after everything I've shared with you about what I've seen in my life, nothing had ever knocked me down like he did.
I can only imagine.
And I did that thing. He said terrible things about me that I believe must be true, because if this person loved me, he knows me,
Mm-hmm.
and they must be true. And that is part of the illness that I have, that I will take on what you say. I fortunately got into therapy within days of that happening. And after 6 months, that therapist recommended I go to Al-Anon. And I was so mad. I was like, I know about alcoholism. I read all the books about codependency and being an adult child. And for 6 months, she worked on me. And finally, I hit another bottom. I was not getting better I was working so hard in therapy, and it was not getting better. And I was in so much pain, and I thought, I will do anything. And I finally got up the courage to go to the rooms of Al-Anon because of that.
All right. Now, if you would, there are so many people right now who are listening who are absolutely identifying with exactly where you are and what has happened to you, and can take on the emotion. The obvious question they've got is, what is this Al-Anon thing, and how is it going to help me?
So Al-Anon, how I describe it, is the sister program to AA. It's for anyone who's affected by someone else's drinking. They do not have to be in recovery. You can come in when your loved one goes into AA or NA or any of those programs, but you can also come in because you've done everything you can to get the other person sober and it's not working. The program is for me and the effect that alcohol and drugs have had on my life. And it works the same 12 steps as AA. And you get a sponsor and you go to meetings, and it's just like AA, but it's about me so that I don't focus on the alcoholic.
And your powerlessness over that person.
Yes.
It's been I can't say that, I'm any expert within the sociology or the culture of Al-Anon, but my experience tells me that the most of the folks that I have encountered in their loved one is still a practicing alcoholic or a drug addict. that they're not in recovery, that these people are in there coming into Al-Anon seeking, somebody teach me how to tell this person to quit doing dope, yet to find out that they're the sick one and that they need some help.
Absolutely. They think that we have the answer how to get their loved ones sober. And then when they come in there, they find out it's for them. And if you're still confused about what Al-Anon is, I tell people it's Control Freaks Anonymous. I think that's the simplest way to explain the program.
Yeah. Could you explain that a little bit more?
We spend a lot of time trying to keep life tidy because if you live with addiction, there's a lot of chaos. And in that chaos, there's a lot of fear. So I would spend a lot of time trying to organize everything and tell people what they should be doing because they're not doing what I think they should be doing so that we can all pay the bills or make it somewhere on time or whatever it is that life should look like. We will orchestrate it. And then that also means, doing terrible things like name calling or using the silent treatment or breaking up with somebody, like in the hopes that, now they'll come, and then getting back together again and then breaking up again or throwing someone out of the house. We will do anything to get you to do what we want so that we can feel better. I want you to do this so I can feel better.
That's maybe the best definition I've ever heard in all the years that I've ever done this. That is it. That is, and it's such a frightening position to be in, to recognize that powerlessness and then to find out that what this disease has done to you. So you've come to Al-Anon, you found out that you're not as well as you thought you were and that there are some issues ahead. What began and then what became?
The first thing I learned at my very first meeting was there was a long-timer, Kay, and she was talking about her family and how all their family events had drinking involved. And that was when the light bulb went. I was very fortunate in the rooms. When I came in, I understood on the very first day that I needed to be there. She described my family and my childhood to a T. And that was a blessing and a curse at the same time because everything that I had ever known for 31 years had just been destroyed. Everything I ever knew was not healthy and not good, and I didn't know what to do with that. That was very scary. And it took a couple months until I started to feel a little better about that and get my feet under me because I started to hear people talk about how they had this incredible life and peace, and the people smiling in the room, like they just destroyed my whole world, but they're smiling, and I'm like, how is this possible? And the hope in the rooms and the way that people came up to me and hugged me and told me to keep coming back and you're in the right place. The love in those rooms is just amazing. And that's so important to a newcomer when they're feeling so lost. And over time and going to meetings, using the literature, listening to the suggestions in the room, I slowly built a new life that's way beyond my wildest dreams.
Where do we hear that also? It's amazing where you are now. We just found out where you came from. We know where you are right now. You just spoke at a major conference of recovery as an Al-Anon speaker, and you were dynamic. You were absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much.
And we know and we understand that this is all part of the spiritual journey that we are experiencing, but your life as it is and being reflective of what you've learned in Al-Anon has taken some significant change in the aspect that professionally you're a scientist, and now you're looking to make a vocational change, which is pretty unusual. And if you'd like to share a little bit about that.
I spent many years as a scientist, and which I loved, but something has happened to me in the past couple of years where something wasn't right, and something was telling me to keep on the spiritual journey where the life that I live outside of my job and my life in my job should be the same. And I can't imagine a better way to spend my life than to spend it in recovery with people who are trying to better themselves and work on themselves, because that's what I'm trying to do. So if I could be around that all the time instead of only part of the time, it's just calling to me.
It is. It's a calling that it's obvious to us also. Just as I said, and I think that Rich will concur with me, within the first few minutes of your talk in Maryland was that in what we like to call connectedness, that instant connectedness. And again, I would say that 80% of the people who were at that conference were alcoholics and drug addicts.
Right.
And just instantly connected with you, and when you have that, that is the what we believe is the spiritual glue that kind of keeps us all together. And indeed, you are chosen, and you are picked to do this. And the journey ahead of you will be a difficult one, but one that I know that you are ready for, and that we are ever so grateful in the recovering community to know that there is somebody like you who is on our side. Because there is, and I would be the first one to be guilty of Al-Anon. We're scared of those Al-Anon people. The Al-Anon. We are family. This is a disease of the family. And the effect of it on all of us is so dramatic that really, as we've said many times, I don't think there's words in the English language that can define it. And I think that you've done a wonderful job of doing that. And we're just ever so grateful that you are here and for what you do. And we just need you to promise you're going to come back on a regular basis.
I think you'll see me again.
All right. And the next time you're speaking, we certainly want to. Are you speaking anytime soon that we could promote that you know of?
Not that I know of.
As soon as you do, you let us know so we can let the world and try and get a hold of a copy of your tape and put it up on our website. You are a special person. We love you, and we're so very grateful that you came here to spend time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Say hi to Harry for us.
I will.
Yeah, and it's funny you talked about getting your talk, and I'd love to be able to get a hold of it. I know that when we had talked before, you were worried about the ands and the ahs and stuff like that.
We can fix that,
but I can fix that, and then put it on the disc, and then we can get it out
share
there
it with the world, man. Because your message is one that needs to be heard because it's full of love and it's full of hope, and those are the two things that we are just so desperate to quench in our lives.
And speaking of two things, just listening to your story, did we date when we were younger? Because
you went for people like Rich.
You went for people like me, and I went for people like you.
And it's true, though. That I look at back when you're talking about that of the girls who tried so hard to help me. You desperately tried to help me, and I just didn't really think I had a problem. They sure did.
Well, I think that there was a part of me back then that wanted to get sober but didn't know how to do it, and I was never attracted to women that were partying as hard as I was. I always needed some sanity over here so I could go over here, then I'd end up abusing it somewhere along the line, and then the person would eventually dump me.
Here's my case. See if you can concur with this. If you were to bring 10 attractive women into this room right now that I've never met any of them before in my life.
Do they have to be attractive?
Yes,
okay.
They do. They
have to be
check
it.
Okay, all right. And I can choose one to go to the movies with and out to dinner. Any one of them. Never met him before. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go right to the crazy one. And just like a magnet, it's just been my MO, and I've had to learn and that's been quite a journey also, and I'm sure that you can appreciate on how it is to get to know yourself first, babe, before you can get to know anyone else.
I don't know what you're trying to say, Jerry, but I know I do have a broken picker.
A broken picker. Write that one down.
I like that, a broken picker. I think we could call this segment a broken picker. And the second thing that stands out for me is, just listening to your story, how I think maybe I should go to some Al-Anon stuff because
I do. I told you how I ended up there.
Not just to get a better understanding, but I think in our correspondence earlier, you had mentioned something about that too, and I really do. I mean, you talk about the trying to control everything and trying to make everything just right. And from your experience of us being friends for a number of years that I have a self-will run riot issue.
But it's a lot better, baby. It really and truly is.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's not completely solved because in my head I'm still trying to control
Progress,
everything.
not perfection. That's what we say around here.
Absolutely. But I also want to personally say thank you very much for coming out and hanging out with us today and making the drive out here and going to chapel with us this morning and actually giving me a hug during the chapel when I was emotionally crashing there during one point of the service because it was very difficult. As you know, I lost my brother about a month ago.
To this disease, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was an extension of this disease. So it's been a very difficult month for me.
Yeah, I have a brother that suffers from the disease as well who's not in recovery. So I can really relate. I have a lot of fear about losing him. He's been drinking for 20 years.
Wow.
And he was identified in high school as having an alcohol problem. And I really relate. I dread the day that I get that phone call. So there are a lot of people in Al-Anon that can understand your loss.
Well, it's difficult because, you do want to try to control it again,
Yeah.
but I couldn't control it. And
It might be a good place to go to help through this process, and we are sorry.
absolutely. And thank you again, Jen. I really appreciate it. Hey, look, we got another segment coming up here. This is Trudge the Road. It's sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers on the Trudge the Road Radio Network.
You're listening to Trudge the Road. Coming up, Jerry talks about his early addiction with Chalk's vitamins. That's next on the Trudge the Road Radio Network.
At Northbound Treatment Services in Newport Beach, California, we believe that treatment is the beginning of a new way of life. Our brand signifies our own commitment to help our clients find new direction and strength on their road to recovery. Our mission is simple: to assist our clients in successfully celebrating 1 year of continuous sobriety. This mission is achieved through unique treatment models, individualized treatment plans, graduated phase systems, and exceptional staff, 12-step philosophies, and a strong alumni program. The Northbound experience focuses on effectively delivering innovative treatment. We are located in the beautiful and vibrant recovering community of Orange County, California. The Northbound experience takes our clients beyond treatment. We are Northbound.
Welcome back to Trudge the Road, sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron is a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment with treatment facilities in Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, offices in Bermuda, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. They can be reached by calling 1-800-854-6023. Or you can go to their website, caron.org. That's caron.org. We're your hosts. I'm Rich, a recovered drug addict.
My name is Jerry. I'm a sober alcoholic, and Ashley and Joe have joined us here also. We've got a little bit of an audience. They've been patiently sitting through our recording here. They went to chapel with us. Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate that.
Yeah, it's an audio thing, so say,
You
yeah.
can say, hey, tell the world you're here. All right.
Well, and Joe actually has been a guest on our show before.
He has, and will be again.
Yeah, so very cool. Maybe someday, Ashley, if you want to hang out and do a show with us, too.
Either that or Ashley's just waiting for the opportunity to get that door open and run.
Get out of here. Hey, listen, I want to say thanks to Jen for coming in, Jen N.
She is the best.
And it was very compelling. And hopefully folks will get a chance to listen to it and listen to it again. Listen to it 3 times. Really, to absorb the complete impact of what she was saying. She's a fantastic speaker. We got a chance to meet her in Maryland a few weeks ago at the Young at Heart convention that was going on there. She spoke representing Al-Anon, and we've had the...
She'll be a national speaker. She'll be all over the United States. I promise you that.
Yeah, we had the privilege of having her here on our show today. Now, we were just kind of talking off the air, just joking around about some things, and you somehow managed to catch all of our attention by telling us you used to be addicted to Chalk's vitamins.
It was my first buzz, man. It was the first big buzz.
How's that even possible?
Let me tell you.
Tell us about your addiction.
I happen to be a little bit older than the most of you in this room, and Chalk's vitamins were introduced to the marketplace in the early 1960s. And the way that they were advertised or marketed, if you will, on television was this kind of scrawny kid who was getting pushed around by the other kids until he got a hold of some Chalk's vitamins. And then it looked like this was for steroids. He took the Chalk's and all of a sudden, boom, now he's big and strong. And now I'm at maybe 5 years old, and I see that and I zoom right in on it. I don't have a lot of recollections of my childhood, but I remember that.
Yeah.
And I started in my mom, get me some of them Chalk's. I got to have Chalk's, Chalk's. You got to get those for me. And I kept it up, and she finally bought them. I remember like it was yesterday. She comes home, it's a Saturday. She opens it from the grocery store. She opens the bottle of Chalk. She gives me one. She leaves the room. I take 2 more, just like I'm supposed to. And then I go out, and then I go outside looking for Doug Harrison, the block bully, who is a year older than me, and much bigger than me. But that doesn't make any difference because I'm on Chalk's. I am on Chalk's. And I'll remember, I'm walking down the alley, and there he is. He's throwing a stick. There's some yard dog there, and I just walk up to him, pull him off the fence, and just beat the living hell out of him. He didn't stand a chance because I was on Chalk's. You see that already. See, it's that message. Even at that age, how that I thought something on the outside could fix me on the inside. And the power of that persuasion, that's probably the first time that I thought I got loaded. And after that, I was the block bully, and nobody could take me now because I got a little Chalks thing going on.
Why couldn't you have found a hero like Popeye and just ate a bunch of spinach?
For some reason, that didn't click because it wasn't a chemical.
Right.
Chalks, okay, that's a pill. Pills work, and that's most children don't have that type of a reaction, and unless you're born with this disease. And you can see the point I'm trying to make, ladies and gentlemen. Long before I ever took a drink, long before I ever took a drug, it was there. Something inside of me wasn't right, and I'm already looking on the outside to make me feel better on the inside. And when I tried those Chalks, it worked. It worked. When I tried alcohol, whoa, it really worked. Because what did it do? It took away the problem. You know what the problem? Fear. That's my problem. The Chalks did the same thing. I was afraid of that kid, but you give me that pill, it took away that fear. They don't call alcohol liquid courage for nothing. Because it takes away the one element that just surrounds all of us. I'm not speaking for Jen, but I know that the people who are affected by this disease because of us, that fear overwhelms them, that undefinable fear, that they're scared of, petrified of things like the phone ring and the mail, anything. It's just an overwhelming sense of fear that is just so hard to define. To wake up in the morning absolutely terrorized and not be able to know what you're terrorized of. That's what the disease of addiction does to you. That's not your character. That's what you're suffering from. And that's why when we find the solution in alcohol and drugs, it's a big solution because that's a big thing to get rid of. You can imagine being scared all the time and then suddenly with a couple drinks of a liquid, it's gone. It's gone. We don't get drunk. I didn't get drunk. I got okay. I got all right. That's how alcohol and drugs work for me. And for you, it was a reason to party and laugh and be convivial and things of that nature. It made me all right. I was okay. I could talk to you now. I could look you in the eye. I've even told you, probably before at the high school dance or the grade school dance, I was brought up in a traditional Irish Catholic neighborhood, and every first Saturday, the folks would play bingo, and they'd have a spaghetti dinner, and the kids would have a sock hop. And they called them a sock hop because they did it on the gym floor, and you took your shoes off. You didn't want to mess up the gym floor. Well, here I am, 13 years old, standing up against the wall, scared to death. I want to dance. But, oh, no. She might say no. I might get rejected. And I vividly remember Sister Mary and Leo walking right up to me and going, Jerry, go ask Betty Jo to dance. And I said,
I need some Chalks.
Yeah.
Give me some Chalks.
I wish I said, sister, you go ask her for me. That way if she says no, I don't have to take the rejection. You can come back and tell me what a skank she is, and then that'll be all right. Now it's a month later. It's a month later. I'm back at that same dance. Now this time, I'm still 13 years old. I got a 6-pack inside of me. And am I scared? No, I'm not going to be on Dancing with the Stars. I'm out there just having a wonderful time. And people are starting to say things like, it looks like Jerry's coming out of his shell. Ho, ho, ho. No kidding. That's what it did for me. It took away that fear, and I could be okay. And that's the difference between us and people who don't have this disease.
Did you get in the covered wagon and go home afterwards?
Yes, I knew you were going to say something. I knew it.
I left the sock hop back in 1847.
I'm not talking to you anymore. You guys are just too mean.
No, it's a great story, and you make some very, very valid points.
I'm just glad Jen was here. She's what made it today, and I can't wait to have her back. And I know that she is going to make some significant changes in this world of ours, in the recovery world.
Absolutely, and a big thank you to her for joining us. And thanks to Matt, the producer.
Matt, the producer, Rax, Ashley, and Joe, thank you very much for coming by and hanging with us.
Absolutely. This is Trudge the Road. It's sponsored by Caron Treatment Centers. Caron's a nonprofit leading provider of drug and alcohol addiction treatment. Caron specializes in men's and women's services as well as young adult males and females, plus a relapse program and outpatient services. If you're concerned about yourself or a loved one, call 1-800-854-6023. You can go to their website, caron.org. That's caron.org. Yes, Jerry.
Just wondering if I could just a shout out to Mike Netherton and our family at Northbound Treatment in California, at Newport Beach. We love you and thank you so very much for your support. We can't wait to see you guys again real soon.
Absolutely. Join us next week on the same fine radio station. This is Trudge the Road on the Trudge the Road Radio Network.
You've been listening to Trudge the Road. If you'd like to catch prior episodes, you can visit our website, trudgetheroadradio.com. And keep listening for new episodes on this great radio station, which is part of the Trudge the Road Radio Network.
Thank you for listening to Trudge the Road. The opinions expressed in the show are those of myself, Jerry, my co-host, Rich, and our guests, and not necessarily those of the Caron Treatment Centers. For more information regarding the show, go to our website, trudgetheroadradio.com.